This is Sean Hennon, writer of episode 704, Kuwait. You're listening to the Blacklist Exposed on Golden Spiral Media.
Thankfully, I know the man I want to be. Welcome to the award-winning The Blacklist Exposed podcast. I'm Agent Troy Heinrichs.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. We've got a slim chance of survival because we're getting boycotted, apparently. Impossible odds. This will be fun. Thanks for joining us again as we discuss Kuwait on the Blacklist this week. A story 5 years in the making. It was written by Sean Hennon and directed by Stephanie Marquardt. All right, show notes and other intel for this episode of The Blacklist Exposed can be found at theblacklistexposed.com.
We'll cover up on our profiling question from last week with all of you first, and then we'll dig into the Kuwait episode, something everybody's been waiting for. Then we'll get into some special agent intel from all of you and tell you all about what we have going on here at the Blacklist Exposed. So let's get right into it with our question from last week. Should we trust Frankie? Francesca.
You know I do. I trust her.
Especially.
Implicitly. But apparently you guys don't agree with me. 30% of you say, yes, she is one of the good guys. 30%? She's lovely. I don't understand. All right, 70% of you say, no. She is shady. Shady.
She's slim.
Nobody wants Marshall no more. They want Shady. I'm Chow Bliva. You want... Oh, sorry. I got to rapping.
I would assume that the 30%ers have it after this week because she came to the rescue.
She was great. And they got like a little team up going. So we got buddy cops almost.
I like it. I liked wrestling her together. I thought that was fun.
I really liked it. Yeah.
Well, Bridget Davis said she proved herself to be very adept at lying. Red will use her, but will he trust her? No. Bobby Jean Arnold, I am hopeful she's going to turn out to be one of the good ones. Plus, she and Dembe would make a great couple. Seems like they are both lonely in their personal lives. And I would add, her and Wrestler had a little bit of a, I don't know, make a cute couple. I could see it. His date from the service. Not that everybody has to be paired up. You know, we don't have to do that. But she's obviously sticking around. I thought that was enough for us to know that she's going to be part of the show going forward because she's been in 4 straight episodes in one way or another. It was a nice surprise to see her this week. Mm-hmm. I didn't think we'd see her so soon. Samantha Henderson said, I don't know, I'm still not sure we could trust her. I'm still on the fence with this chick. Lauren Trout, I like her. I think she's good, and in the end, we'll work with Fred, but she's definitely some kind of operative, maybe a plant. For who? I don't know. But Meg thinks that, yes, because Reddington is already impressed by her skills. And lastly, Tyler Mills, I don't think so, but I also think that Red will make the right choice. It will make us think Red has no clue as to what she's up to, and then bam, egg on her face. I like when Red lets him string him along, and then Red totally takes him out. Well, I think he already, kind of played that hand, so I don't know. Well, we'll see. That'd be interesting. Next week's profiling question, it kind of pertains to everything we heard here, because there's a lot of allusions to Ilya Koslov, and I know we've had the question before, but do you believe Ilya Koslov is Raymond Reddington? Do you believe it at this point, after last season and this season, and you got this episode? Do you think it's true? Or, I guess it can go either way, right? It could be that they have told us and we just don't know the backstory to this character. Like there's more to learn, and that's what's going to be the big surprise near the end. A lot of things happen in Belgrade and everything else. Or they're just doing what they did the last time. Just stringing us along, and they're going to pull the rug out from under us. Does Gabriel Mann get a credit for the episode, though, because his picture was in it? That's the real question. Yeah, I always wonder that when you see that in TV shows. When you show a picture of somebody who was in a previous episode, I get when you show a previously on clip. That's, you don't have to pay the actors for that, but if you show a picture of them, you got to send them a check for $5 or something. We got to remember that question because I want to ask that one. That seems very important. It sure does. How much do the actors get to drop their picture in a driver's license photo? All right. Well, thanks all that answered this week. Now, before any other friends boycott us and disappear from our lives, let's dig into this week's case profile. I got to say, and to allude to that, I have no idea who I just heard somebody told me that some people are boycotting us. Mostly because of some things I said. They didn't like some things I said. So yeah, apparently you're grumpy and an asshole. And That's not what they said. Something like they didn't like that I wasn't on board some theories. I don't know which theories they were, and I'm not going to go to them, but I don't know what you're talking about. So until you clarify with me, how am I supposed to know? But I believe what I believe.
This week, though, is the question.
What's that?
Did we get any theories this week is the question.
I really felt like, I got to be honest with you. I really enjoyed this episode. A lot of fun. Love having Harry Lennox front and center. I don't think anything added or took away from any theory already out there. Do you?
I appreciate knowing the backstory because it was fun to know the backstory.
But you put a lot of weight into this backstory, man. You've been talking about this for years. Like, this is going to be some monumental development, and then it wasn't. So I got to feel like to you, in some way, it's a bit of a disappointment.
Kind of. I hate to say it. I mean, I love Harry Lennox and everything they did. James Spader was great. Everybody was just fantastic in the episode. So as an episode itself, it's great. As part of the Blacklist lore, I was like, man, disappointed, I guess, is kind of the word that's coming to my head right now. I just thought there would be more.
What did you want? See, here's the problem with expectations, though. I mean, you've had this in your head that this was going to be some huge monumental shift in the story for a long time, just because you heard it mentioned a couple times. There really wasn't an indication that it would be that huge, but you built it up in your head that much. So is it their fault, or is it, as an audience member watching the show and just building the Kuwait moment up in your head? Was it just an expectations problem? What do you think?
Well, so that's a good question.
Legitimate question.
Yeah, that is a good question, because I would say that we built it up in our head, but because Red was willing to give up his only leverage for something over Harold Cooper all the way back in season 2. And then you have another reference to it in season 3, right? And then you have this discussion about Sea-Duke in season 4, which may or may not be related to Kuwait at all, and apparently is not in this particular case. But when you have all this stuff, it's like, man, here's the answer we've been waiting for like 5 years. It's got to be bigger than this, right? And then it's not. And you're just like, man. But at the same time, what it did for this episode is exactly what we want a Blacklist episode to do. It says, hey, here's Harold Cooper. And here's the one thing. I'll say this about season 7 as a whole so far, right? Started out of the gate. We picked up right where we left off. Red still captured in episode 2. Even though Red was free in episode 3, they still needed Red in order to find Louis T. Steinhill, right? The illusionist. Mm-hmm. So they still needed him. Now that Steinhill is dead and they have no leads on finding the mysterious woman, Cooper actually does the right thing. So the progression of the story for season 7 so far is right on point. He's got a clean, free opportunity to turn in this guy to main justice. So the story makes sense for season 7 as a whole. This is the next logical move, and I commend the writers for doing that, right? Because if he just sits there and it's like, oh, I don't know, will I, won't I, people get like really frustrated with that. So the fact that we're still clipping along and making reasonable choices as what the next episode is going to be, I dig that, right? But at the same time, it's like we talk about, you drag out this mythology for so long, and here you feel like you're getting a mythology-based episode because all the other non-numbered episodes have been pretty much home runs. To me, it's kind of a letdown. Expectations or not. It was just a little bit flat from a mythology standpoint.
I wasn't expecting that much, so I feel like, this is where, and we've been split on this for many years. You've been sold that Kuwait was a big deal, and I haven't been. I've just kind of felt like, well, I just feel like it's the only thing of importance to me is that's where Red and Cooper would have crossed paths. I feel like we got exactly what we needed to get out of the episode. I really enjoy, especially the Cooper backstory. I feel like it was important to know that he wasn't always, Dudley Do-Right. He made some bad calls in his past, and that was important. I feel like we got some really good discussion because you had Cooper confronting Red about him not being who he says he is, and Red acknowledging he's not who he says he is. So there's that's a plus, because he does flat out acknowledge I'm not Red Reddington, but I am Red Reddington now. So he is now, whoever he was, doesn't matter. He is Red Reddington now. And there's several allusions to that. And you get some important I think, mythology stuff because, 2 episodes ago, you have Katerina saying that the only person that can give her the answer she wants is Red Reddington. And then when she pulls out the picture is our Red, James Spader. And then when she shows her compatriot the picture of Ilya Koslov, I can never get that name right. When she shows it to him, she says, that's the only person that can get me what I want, which to me brings the two together, bridges the two and says, to me, I mean, and I got to take the show for what I'm not saying that there aren't holes and there aren't possibilities and everything. There are definitely. I'm just saying at this point, the signs are pointing that way. Is it 100%? But I'm getting closer. I mean, I've never really been sold that he was Ilya Koslov, but it feels like they're leading me down that path. And to me, that's at least you're getting something mythology based. So I never had Kuwait built up as this big monumental development because it always happened before Red Reddington really became Red Reddington. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah, because it always happened before 1990.
It always happened before 1990. So to me, it was never going to be a monumental development. And I know you, I get why you went there. It's just, I wasn't on the same train in that respect. We trains passing in the night.
Well, I think it's because when you think about, here's this 1989, right before 1990, and you have Cooper is doing his thing. You got Reds in the naval intelligence. You're talking about framing him for the sub thing and changing hands. And here Cooper's got this money. Then we don't know what it's actually going to be used for or paid for.
That's stuff that happened.
Right. But because you have all of that knowledge already. So when you sit down to watch this episode, you're like, well, I have all this knowledge. Like, how is that going to tie in? So you immediately come into the episode with expectations. I don't know how you could come in and not have some kind of expectations as you sit down to start this episode.
I feel like my expectations were mild and they were exceeded. Like, I didn't have the only thing I had high expectations for is because of the title of it, it led me to believe we were going to get another Cape May or Kaplan-like episode. That's the only thing that the title was more of an expectation for me than the actual based in Kuwait. Because you've been excited about this episode since you found out the title. You're like, I can't wait. This is exciting. And it's like, I want to get some background on it. And I get where you're coming from. I didn't really ever think that was going to be a big deal.
What did you think of the whole Reddington in the background with just the name tag? Like, if you know,
it's a little ominous.
We all know he's an imposter. We all know what he supposedly looks like, because if this guy looks like Raymond Reddington, then shouldn't James Spader have just been standing there behind or even somebody else just that looked like James Spader standing behind the glass? Like, the fact that they obscure his face so you can't see it and just show the name tag. I don't know.
You've got, obviously they're constricted on budget here because there's 2 reasons. One, they couldn't afford Gabriel Mann for this episode because they can only show his picture. So they had $5 versus, $5,000.
Well, and remember, Gabriel Mann is Ilya Koslov. He's not Raymond Reddington.
Right. I'm just saying, like, to make it look like it was the same guy or whatever. Do something to make it look like it's Raymond Reddington. So they kept them all ominous and in the background. And it's probably like the caterer or something. Hey, Jim, put the outfit on, stand behind the glass. We're just going to get you from the name tag up. You'll be all right. Don't worry. You'll be blackened out. You'll be fine. And then later you get the drone strike that's only seen in the reflection on Red's sunglasses rather than you actually see it, which to me is a budgetary reason. It's sensical. I mean, it's a way that independent movies shoot a lot of things. So it's a very economical way to shoot a big action scene like that. So it seems bigger than it really is. And those 2 moments being like, maybe they were constrained a little bit. I don't know. But it was I thought you needed that there because you needed to tie in how Reddington would have been part of this. Because otherwise, he's not really part of the story.
Yeah, and is he part of whatever Harold was involved with the illicit orders that he got? Because if you go back to 2.1, Lord Baltimore, Red specifically says to Harold that this is the only copy of our little adventure. So does that mean Raymond Reddington was actually part of the paying off of the insurgents that were in the area? Or was he just there because he was part of the cover-up to get him the star and to basically drag Daniel Hutton's name to the ground?
Or maybe it's just because he was there when the interrogations were being done. We don't know. But any one of those, they would be theories because we don't know. Any one of those would play, really.
Yeah.
If you think about it, they all play. None of them would really be wrong. They all make sense. So, I mean, the writers haven't betrayed us on this. I think that was one of those where it was just built up in your head bigger than it delivered. You wanted a Cape May. You wanted Harold Cooper's Cape May.
I don't think I wanted necessarily a Cape May, but I wanted, like, how is it tied to the Cabal? How is it tied to the bombing in Russia? There's got to be some kind of, like, all this has to be connected somehow, and it's not connected, you know?
Oh, so to me, that would have pissed me off. Like, as a fan, that would have been so cheap. Harold Cooper has no connection to really the Cabal and everything else. And to tie it in before any of that really happened would be a stretch. It just would be to me. It would be hard to make that connection without really stretching logic. And we're already stretching logic quite a bit in the show. Do you really want to teeter on it just a little bit more? I mean,
Well, I wouldn't say that the Cabal would be a stretch, because if the Cabal was full force 1990, we know for sure because of the whole sub thing, then we know that there were people in power in 89 that were probably part of the Cabal. And maybe the Cabal was the one that was giving the orders for these illicit funds to fund the insurgents, you know, coming down through the channels. So maybe the Cabal was involved. We just didn't get it very explicitly stated in this episode this evening.
I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it would be more of a stretch, and just all things can't come from the Cabal. You know, sometimes you just need a dynamic that has nothing to do with that. Not everything has to be tied to that. And I feel like having Cooper involved when he's running the task force, you know, decades later, and all this stuff happens to coincide, it's just a logistic stretch to me, a narrative stretch. It just doesn't. It makes it seem like you're forcing things into holes that they shouldn't, to me, if you do that. So I liked what they did here. I feel like it was important that we got Cooper's backstory. We know that he wasn't always perfect, wasn't always a Boy Scout, and that's good information. I mean, yeah, good information. Should we?
We should probably we should tell people what this episode was about in case they haven't seen it yet.
They already watched it. Come on. Why would you listen to this if you haven't watched it yet?
Because maybe I live across the puddle and I don't get it until, like, you know, another year and a half from now. And this is what I get to stay in the know and the current.
Well, this entire episode revolves around Harold Cooper, Daniel Hutton, and whomever is Raymond Reddington, whomever you currently feel Raymond Reddington is. This is Kuwait. Now we're reliving events from 1989 and finally getting a Harold Cooper focused episode, as well as some necessary backstory on Raymond Reddington, Daniel Hutton, but especially the Coop DeVille. Daniel Hutton was the name dropped in the premiere for Cooper to know Red was Red. You remember that?
Yes.
And he was the operative that was believed to be killed in action in Kuwait after discovering the military was funding the Kurds and vowing to expose them. Now, Hutton wants to rat on the mission, but Harold wants to follow orders. We come to find out in the episode that Hutton's ambush was actually another military order, one that Cooper went along with, and he agreed with in some way. Like, he didn't go against it, and Hutton was believed to be killed in the process. He wasn't, though. He lived, he was tortured, then once he realized no one was coming for him, he sold out his military secrets. After that ran out, he translated military code, and after 3 decades, he's become the Shamoon. Did I say that right?
I believe that's right.
Okay. A covert secret seller that now needs a few more secrets out of one Harold Cooper. So what he does, the whole crux of the episode, is he dupes Harold into coming to get him, and just as Harold thinks he's saving him, we come to find out that is just simply not true. He just needed more secrets to sell, and now it's up to Red and friends and Dungeon Masters to save him, which they do with the help of a local mercenary group and, of course, the Dungeon Matcher, which is this bitching gamer drone chair. By the way, it's just, I want one. I want one in my basement. I want to play Call of Duty in that chair. So what did you think overall of the episode before we get into character?
But just Call of Duty. You don't want to actually fly a drone and, like, kill people. Just want to clarify.
I mean, I would do like the YouTube drones where you just fly them around and just take video. I would do that. I don't want to bomb anybody, but it'd be kind of cool to control drones and just fly them all over and just, you know, people are having a picnic and I just zip by. That'd be fun.
It was a pretty cool chair.
Maybe hook up a Nerf gun to it so it just shoots Nerf at what people are playing sports.
No, it drops water balloons on people's picnics.
That
would be fun.
Make sure you find somebody that's proposing to somebody and then you just drop a water balloon right on them. That'd be great. There's your memory.
Did you feel like the Shamoon was a telegraph or no? Did you pick up on that at all? It seemed like that was a pretty pretty
I did
easy
not.
tell.
I didn't. My wife did in a heartbeat, very quickly.
See, I love that there's some things where it's like, oh, I totally saw that coming and you didn't. And then there's things where it's like, I was totally fooled by that. And you were like, nope, called it right away. So
no, I knew, I knew 100% that it was a ruse. I didn't believe but for moments, I kept thinking, at the beginning until I saw the fingerprint part, I was like, maybe Daniel Hutton is Red Reddington. It's like, because Red was so...
You need help if that was the case.
Hey, man, how many other theories are out there like that? Seriously, I can't think of Daniel Hutton, but everything else can be thrown this way? I don't think so. I think it's perfectly plausible to throw that out there.
Well, Daniel Hutton could be Raymond Reddington, but Daniel Hutton is definitely not.
Hutton. They said Daniel Hutton because he's a big part. How would you know what you know? All that jive. Yeah, for a minute there, I'm like, maybe he's Daniel Hutton. Maybe, that would kind of make some sense at the time. Then he does the fingerprints. I'm like, well, I guess not him. Worth a shot. Because they do print you in the military, so they would have him on file. I know this because I was there. In the Navy. And
apparently those fingerprints are very hard to hack into and change. Because in the what is the APHIS system or whatever, they have redundancies upon redundancies and database controls in place. So I still say we need to get the fingerprint blacklister, because either someone had to hack into that system, which is super, super hard, to change Raymond Reddington's fingerprints, the Raymond Reddington we know today, or they physically changed Raymond Reddington's fingerprints, which I also heard is difficult because they grow back.
Your fingerprints?
Yeah.
Your fingerprints should match all of your life.
Right, but what if there's a blacklister that could change your fingerprints to make your fingerprints somebody else's?
They would have to explain the science behind that because, scars can change them, I suppose. They can still match them up. But if you get a scar on your thumb.
Because if Raymond Reddington is Ilya Koslov, then technically it would be Ilya Koslov's fingerprints.
It's definitely not Daniel Hutton.
No.
We know that now.
Definitely not.
Bummer. It was like, man, whole new theory. That was killed pretty quick.
Yeah. Because always that there would have been like, dude, I shot myself.
All right, let's get into the characters. Music, was there any? There wasn't a whole lot of
There was
songs
one
here.
tune in the middle when they were going to the Dungeon Master's game store. I didn't quite pick up on that one. So it was kind of like a backing track. As Red and Cooper fly back from Iran, we are treated to Como Te Quiero by Krungbin. The end of the episode, when Cooper talks to Panabaker and comes clean to Red, we do hear Letters Home from a Blacklist staple. Good old Radical Face is back. I love that band. So good. So good. You can get that, of course, on the playlists over at theblacklistexposed.com, both Spotify and Apple Music. Go check those out. We also have interviews with Dave Porter and John Bissell over there. You can check that out on the YouTube channel and our cast and crew interviews. So make sure you check those out as well if you like the music side of the show.
Good. Love the music. All right. So the characters. Aram and Dembe are kind of ancillary characters this week. They don't do a whole lot except just look pretty.
And drool at the gaming store.
Yeah, which is kind of funny because we didn't get anything on Aram and his new hotness this week.
That's right. That's right.
Boy, was that split. Boy, we asked everybody if they agreed because I'm on that's out of character and I think you're on it's out of character too.
I was out of character, but I was okay with him doing it. You were still like, no, it's not okay because of the moral confliction of it all.
For Aram. For Aram.
Yeah.
Not in general. I wasn't judging anybody. So it's, bam, people were passionate about that.
Yeah.
Passionate.
Fan base
passionate
split.
about Aram. Very split. Apparently they like when Aram is a player. Well, here he doesn't do a whole lot, except he does decode the Daniel Hutton message and loses it over this game store launching a drone strike. He was really excited by that.
Super. Said it twice.
Very pumped.
Don't worry, Aram. We get it. We're with you.
And speaking of, Wrestler and Frankie, they're the Gophers this week. So they're the ones that pay off the Dungeon Master. Either one of them could have dropped this off. So by having Frankie, like we talked about, involved for 4 straight episodes, tells me she's basically part of the team, do you think? Or she's joining the team, do you think?
Part of Red's team, but she's not really in the know about the task force and the FBI and how that all works.
Right, but he put those two together, and you didn't really need them both. Wrestler could have just dropped the money off. So to me, this is signaling that we're going to have Frankie around for some time.
Well, Wrestler could have dropped the money off. The question is, how does Wrestler get the money? So you'd still have to have him meet up with somebody from Red's organization.
I don't know if you have to show that. We don't know that where'd Frankie get the money. We don't have to see where the money came from. We just had to see him walk in.
So we had to know it came from Red, right?
Well, I think we already knew that.
Because then it would look like the FBI paid for the drone strike versus Red paying for the drone strike.
I think you could have done that with dialogue. My point is,
or you could have done it with Glenn or Brinley or anything.
I'm just saying, like, characters. My point is, by having her there, it's a symbol that she's here for
a
at
while.
least some time. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you going to make it so complicated?
I was saying, I was agreeing with you. Like, she's definitely solidified as a permanent character. I'm saying you could have, if she wasn't going to be a permanent character, there are other ways you could have done this. But by doing this, it solidifies her as a permanent character.
That's literally what I was saying.
I know. I was agreeing with you.
I didn't. That's not how agreeing works. I think we got to work on how you agree. All right, Liz, she found her nanny, but Katerina pretended to be a Fed to put the fear of Michael Myers in her and talked her into quitting, leaving, Liz in a bind. So Katerina got to play nanny, which she's really good at, by the way.
And spy at the same time.
Got an knack for it, yeah. So during this moment in the episode, Liz and Katerina are having this back and forth, and mothers talking to their daughters, and how Liz says that hers isn't interested. And then, Katerina says, I've put her through some dark, when she's talking about her daughter, I've put her through some dark times. And then Liz responds back to her that you want a relationship with your daughter. Her mother doesn't. So how do you feel about that whole conversation at the table?
I mean, it's almost like too on the nose as they're sitting there having the conversation, that when it's like too on the nose like that, it's hard to believe that she could be Katerina. And the more and more I keep watching, the more and more I keep watching the scene and understanding the Townsend directive, and the fact that at the end of season 6, we had Dembe coming up to Red and saying the Townsend directive has been enacted. He goes and meets with the stranger, then goes to Paris. Part of me is going in the back of my head, maybe this lady is just part of the Townsend directive and she wants to get to Katerina first. So what better way to get there than to play Katerina, because it would give her access that she wouldn't have otherwise.
But nothing we saw in the first 2 episodes would make sense for that. Really. That wouldn't work. What she did and the questions she was asking in the first 2 episodes, that wouldn't make sense for that. That would make a good argument if you didn't have the first 2 episodes, which kind of go against that, because she didn't try to get any information out of Red about Katerina. All the information she was trying to get was about the Townsend directive.
True. But if I'm part of the Townsend directive, I want to get all the other competition off the table. Because it doesn't sound like it's like an initiative. It sounds like it's like a group of people that have put money in a pot.
Okay. I don't have anything to indicate that would be accurate. So I can't jump on that train because there's nothing, that's just all speculation. What if, maybe. There's actually nothing in the show that alluded to that.
Well, the end of the episode could have alluded to it.
Well, you and I strongly disagree on that. Like vehemently disagree on that.
Well, because you're taking it at face value, which you totally should.
I'm not taking it at face value. I'm just saying it. 95% of the time, the dialogue and everything here is very much exactly what it's meant to be. And, we as fans, myself included, have done it myself, overthink it. But typically 95% of the time, go do the math, it's about 95%. It's exactly what you think it is. And that and the earlier episodes directly connect. She said specifically, Red is the only one that can give me the information on the Townsend directive. And here she pulls up Ilya Kozlov's picture and says, the only one that can give me the information on the Townsend directive. In her mind, whoever you think she is, she connects those 2 people. She thinks that they are the same person based on that conversation. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to say I don't know. How do you see it differently?
Well, I agree with you. This is me agreeing with you, because we have to establish how to agree with each other now. But I do agree with you that connection is exactly what I told my wife. I said, look, this scene is going to be taken 2 ways. Either A, exactly how Aaron just explained it, or B, people are going to come back and say, well, what if Ilya was the stranger? We never found out who the stranger was. And maybe this is an arc for this woman and her henchmen to basically track down Ilya Kozlov, who could have been the stranger on the bench. And Raymond Reddington is still somebody that's an enigma that we don't know. Because Raymond hasn't confirmed he was Ilya Koslov. He's just been kind of like, ha ha ha, going along and playing with it and making people think that they all have the answer, but he hasn't actually said, yes, I am.
He hasn't. He absolutely hasn't. I agree with that. And I'm not even on board that he is Ilya Koslov. I'm not sold on it. I'm just saying that they're definitely painting that picture. Does that mean that's the case? No. I mean, they painted the pictures about Raymond Reddington before and that he was Raymond Reddington, the yada, yada, yada. But I will say, I mean, Raymond Reddington clearly said no, that he wasn't her dad, but people still ran on that, even though he clearly said it. I'm saying sometimes the information is quite clear in the episodes and we just don't take it at the value it's meant. So, yeah, you could take it a different way, or you can just take it as it was presented. And the way it was presented was that because of the earlier episodes in this episode, she thinks those two are the same person.
Which I totally buy.
Now, is she Katerina? That remains to be seen. I feel like so far all signs say yes. They're doing a whole lot of nods to moms and daughters and go talk to your daughter, and then, using that to paint the picture of maybe we'll get some feedback on or some vibe as to why she wasn't there for Liz. But yeah, I mean, all signs, but there's definitely other signs that say that maybe she's not who she says she is. I'm not saying that that's not possible. It's definitely possible.
But with the amount of time that she's been spending with Liz, especially even in this episode, where they have much longer chats, I think I'm almost liking the idea of her being Katerina and then giving us the information about what happened through these conversations, even though Liz isn't aware that she's literally sitting across from her mother.
I would love that.
I kind of like that dynamic and the way that storytelling would take place.
Yeah, I would love that. And I'll be honest, I really like her as Katerina. I know some people don't, but I'm on board. So I think she's doing a great job. And we've said for a long time, the mythology needs to move forward. It seems like it is. I think we're still, as fans, probably debating it a lot in our heads. And, we all have our different theories for whatever they are. So we're stuck there. And maybe you're right, maybe you're not. But at some point, I'm enjoying the ride. And I feel like this is the ride I'm on.
And we always said they could answer all the questions that we've had, in the show for the most part. And the answer to those questions could open up a whole new story arc.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that's where we're at, because if this woman is Katerina, why would Dom say go to hell? Right. Other than he's just a crutchy old bastard. Right. But at the same time, I think that's something you have to keep out there. It's like, how does this all fit, and why are they so upset at each other, and what happened to break the trust in the relationship that happened in 1990, 1991?
She had too many emotional and just emotional reactions about Red and Dom when none of the other parties were involved. It was all like her henchmen and stuff. That would make no sense story-wise unless she was the person that they're portraying her to me.
And she almost had a painstaking look on her face when Liz was there, like, nope, my mom. Nope, not my mom.
Yep,
not my mom. It seemed like it kind of cut her a little bit. Hurt little dagger just in the heart.
This is kind of fun, though. Many fans I've seen all over the internets have theorized that Liz suspects this is her mother. Liz suspects it. So what say you? And if she doesn't suspect it, does that make her a bad profiler?
Yeah, that was a question. That was a big conversation this past week, was the whole first of all, pause there. I love the fact that she at least was like, yeah, those guys outside, yeah, they're here to watch and protect me.
Yeah.
Was actually in the episode, because that was our biggest thing last week. Like, isn't there someone watching the place? Like, wouldn't they see this woman coming up there? So now the question is are these people really that dumb that they don't realize who's in the building?
Well, they don't know they haven't seen her in 30 years, so they don't have an updated picture. So I guess
I suppose, yeah, because Red hasn't physically given a copy of the picture of this lady to the post office, so I guess it tracks. But I just thought that was really funny. And we're all saying it, that they have to address it specifically. But yeah, there was a lot of chatter about that, about the whole, like, Liz is just so naive and how she let this woman in. And then there's another half of the camp that's like, oh no, Liz is totally doing this on purpose. It's like the Ruin episode where she knows the game is afoot the entire time and she's just waiting to actually strike and getting information out of the situation. I would hope after 6 years plus that that's what's happening. This is a ruin episode where she's clearly in on the know, and she's just dragging this along to get information out of her to come to the conclusions versus being the naive Liz that we would have seen earlier in the seasons.
I have to say, if she's not in on it, then I probably struggle, just because, I mean, she's had so many characters betray her. That's way too trusting for a character like Liz, who's supposed to be a very educated profiler, to me. So I'm really hoping that's not the case. And I can't tell right now. I mean, it feels like she has no idea. But then again, they're doing a lot of daughter-mother talk. And to me, and they're both doing it. It's not just one or the other. To me, that feels like a good way for a profiler to try to approach a target, you know? So there is part of me that's very hopeful that it is like Ruin, and she is setting her up, and she is just trying to get information. But I'm not sold that that's the case.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. And I hope that it's hard to tell because the writers are doing that good of a job masking it so that there's a big surprise coming when she's like, haha, I knew it was you all the time.
Mm-hmm. Pulls off the Scooby-Doo mask.
Exactly.
I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you meddling kids.
Because you have to remember that not only is she a profiler, but now she's also got all of this history with Reddington and how to think like Reddington and act like Reddington and be Reddington because he's my father, but he's not my father, but a guy that's just taken care of me my whole life. So with all of that in her back pocket, she's got to be better than naive Liz. Got to be. Otherwise, it's just a complete disservice to the character at this point.
Yeah. So we'll wait for that one to play out, and then we'll address it when we know one way or the other, for sure. So Katerina plays nanny, but uses it to go snooping in Liz's. I want to say she is a good nanny, by the way.
Yeah.
Like that color game, that coloring book game is really, that seemed fun. I wish I would have done that with my kids when they were that age.
I wrote it down. I'm going to use it on my 14-year-old now because she likes to color.
There you go.
Like, here's a contest. You get Starbucks if you go to your room and color for 10 minutes so dad and mom can talk.
Quiet time. Is that like an air quote thing? Like mom and dad can talk?
Hey, you made it creepy. I was just like, just go the hell away. I needed to do 5 minutes to myself.
That was just biology, brother. That wasn't creepy. All right, so once she finds a picture of Ilya, she says, the only person who can tell me what I want to know, and we already talked about that a little bit. So you are landing, you are agreeing with me on that's the picture that's painted from that?
I agree with you because the way the words that were used. It was very specific and ties back to the same words that were used previously in the two-part opener. So yes, I agree with you, but I can understand how people might take it a different way.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely, I get it. I mean, we've all been watching the same show, right? I think we all know that there's lots of ways to go for sure. So Red has a heart-to-heart with Cooper about not turning him in terms of telling Panabaker who he really is. He really doesn't want that to happen. Acknowledging that he is definitely someone else and that regardless of who he is now, who he is now is what matters.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
I love that they wrote in the whole interview that James did during the Behind the Blacklist special. You know, they wouldn't make a TV show about that guy. They make a TV show about this guy, right, from the season 6 Behind the Blacklist. And he literally has that same conversation with Cooper on the plane. Like, this Raymond Reddington version is so much better.
Yep, he does. Which is true.
It is true.
Because, I mean, all the real one did was just hang out in the background and look all ominous.
Yeah. Couldn't even have a straight name tag. It was a little crooked.
You really noticed that? You're paying attention? You're like...
I was trying to see his face. I had to look close. I was like, okay.
Yeah, it looked like that Queen cover, for like Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, right.
Just like very ominous.
Totally.
All right, so he knows something. He knows specific details about Cooper and Sutton, and Cooper asks him a very relevant question. If you're not Raymond Reddington, how could you possibly know these things? And this is something I have no answer for.
Well, it's the same answer of how he knows anything Raymond Reddington did. Raymond Reddington existed. Raymond Reddington shared it with Katerina when Katerina was, stooping him. And then all of a sudden, all that information gets transported to Ilya Koslov when the transformation happens that we see in Rasviet. So totally can buy how he could have the information very easily.
I mean, I see the connection. I just don't how does that come up in Nookie Chatter? You know what I mean? Like you're just sitting there and post coitus and you're having a conversation about, hey, my coworker smuggled some money in and paid some Kurds off? Like, how does that come up?
I don't know. Apparently enough was shared. Because the only other explanation is that this is actually Raymond Reddington and the bones are faked and blah, blah, blah. And,
no, that's been killed.
But we've killed that 100 times. So,
yeah, by everybody.
So clearly Katerina was just a good enough spy to get enough information out of them when they were,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I get it. It
was a high value target, right? That was her job, to go after high value targets.
Well, at some point, the original Raymond Reddington was kind of an idiot. Right? I mean, can we just acknowledge that? That guy was kind of dumb. It seems like all he did was give up secrets and he just screwed his whole country over. I don't know. You kind of got what was coming to you, Raymond. Sorry.
Well, that could explain how Liz goes back and forth all the time. One parent was really smart, one parent wasn't.
I don't know which side I land on. All right. Well, he does say, whoever I was, I will continue to be Raymond Reddington. And that's a very important fact.
Why, though? That's the question.
Well, I think that's the question that we won't know until the very end, right? I mean,
yeah. Why do you?
That's the important question.
Why do you keep being Raymond Reddington? Especially now when the cabal's been debunked, and that was the whole reason you were hiding from him in the first place.
Mm-hmm. There's a reason. There's more reason. There's more stuff we don't know. There's probably more characters we don't know yet. You're talking about an entire history that we haven't seen. So there's lots and lots and lots of stuff that can pop up still. Ultimately, Red gets Cooper out by using the Dungeon Master who owes him after he won a game of Magic the Gathering.
Talk about a completely great reference, yet totally dated reference at the same time.
Yeah, but mostly great, because I'm sitting there going, all right, we gave him nerd cred. Like, there's something that Raymond doesn't really get very often. It's always very artistic. It's very suave. It's very nuanced. This is Magic the Gathering. This is the kind of stuff my friends play. So
still to this day?
Yeah, I've got friends that still play Magic the Gathering, yeah.
Wow. All right.
Maybe you need a few more friends.
I have friends. We just play online now.
Is it your friends that are boycotting?
Maybe.
Did you organize a troop?
Anything to get back at you? Absolutely.
I would absolutely see that. Yeah. Guys, get them. Grab your pitchforks. It's funny. Well, it's kind of cool. I thought it was a cool touch, and I'm glad.
Especially the fact that he won against that guy. Right? I mean, those are the guys that are like the master Magic the Gathering players.
That's true, man. I know some Dungeon Masters, and those dudes are serious. They take their gaming serious. Like, I've got a couple buddies that are all Dungeon Masters, and they meet every week or every month or something, and they do a game. And they do it all online because they're all in like different parts of the world.
Well, because they all have sweet ass chairs and they don't want to leave them.
Yeah, they do, man. Yeah, they know how this stuff works. They have a grand old time. It's great. All right. Well, they agreed to keep his former identity a secret, which is good to know. Which we kind of knew that would have to happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So now we're on the Cooper. We've already talked about Cooper quite a bit, but there's still some stuff left. The flash drive is, if memory serves, Red's only copy of their quote-unquote little adventure in Kuwait.
Yep, 2.1 load Baltimore.
Yep. So we know. The one thing I will say, I was kind of surprised you don't get a previously on. You don't get someone using words to explain. I mean, I guess they're just assuming you know the flash drive. Well, I guess he did watch it. So he watched his testimony, right? That was on the flash drive because he was on the plane and he was watching it. Yeah,
I guess so. But coming into the cold open.
But that's not really something to blackmail with it because it's testimony. So that would be, his interrogation video would be on record somewhere. So maybe that's not what was on I don't know. You'd think they would have gave a better indication of everything that was on the flash drive that we should be concerned with. And that's what they didn't do.
And here's the thing too, when you say like the previously on, I mean, Blacklist isn't known for doing previously ons, typically. But at the same time, if you had the whole like, here, let's run down the show and basically give you all the answers from Liz in 5 seconds or less in the opening premiere of the season, then I would think that you'd want to at least pull these two clips from 2.1 Lord Baltimore and 311 Gregory DeVry to just jog people's memory, right? Or at least write it in to the cold open somehow. I don't know. Or maybe they can they go through the rundown, like when they're all standing there in the post office and they do their usual like Blacklister of the week is going to be da da da,
right?
And then they could at least reference back to those 2 episodes just to like make connections for people that aren't like us.
Yeah. Fair. I was just kind of surprised we didn't get anything. So a lot of people were wondering what that was, and that's what it was. Red's only copy of their little adventure in Kuwait. To my understanding, this whole scenario that you saw depicted on screen is really what was part of that flash drive.
Yeah, and the fact that
he just owned up to it, to Panabaker.
Right. And the fact that Reddington gave it to him all those years ago, just to say like, hey, this isn't that, I'm not holding this over you. It's a bribe because I really need your help.
Exactly.
So here he's willing to, like, this could actually, the one thing that Reddington was going to hold over Cooper is now holding over Reddington. So the switch in that was actually really interesting.
And then we get to the part where we find out exactly what happened with Cooper, that he willingly turned a blind eye to an illegal order. But as Red says, it's who you are now that matters. So Cooper's still a damn good man. But does this episode taint your feelings on him at all?
No, I don't think so, because at the end of the day, he was following orders. He just didn't know they were shady until much later.
Yep.
Because in the moment, you're like, that's an order, Sergeant. And it's like, okay, if you say it's an order, I guess the dude's dead and I'm getting an award.
Well, I will tell you, from my service in the military, you are trained to never disobey an order. And even if there's a lot of orders that don't seem right, but if you question your orders, you will very quickly have a sad life in the brig. So,
and if you don't have a sad life in the brig, at least the buddies in your unit are going to come after you because you got to run a whole lot of laps.
That's boot camp. You obviously didn't serve, so it's definitely something that it will be very bad for you if you disobey any orders whatsoever. So should he report it to a higher power? Maybe, but they made it painfully obvious that the higher powers were involved in this episode. So I get where Harold Cooper was coming from to an extent. It works to me.
Yep.
It works.
Totally.
And it doesn't make me think any different of him at all. In fact, it makes, in a way, he's kind of a patriot. I know everybody kind of believes that soldiers should always, you should. I mean, I believe if he would have saw somebody getting killed innocently, he would have stopped that. Something like that. But this wasn't as blatant in his mind. This just, he felt something was off, but not necessarily.
Yeah, because he didn't even
criminal.
know that the ambush was coming.
No, he had no idea.
He was in the dark on the ambush. It's not like he planned the ambush because he found, wanted to take him out because he found out about the money or anything. So, and he's lived with this issue his entire life. Like, he's been conflicted about it. So it doesn't say that he was a bad person.
Right.
He's like, exactly. I just followed orders and I'm conflicted because I did it.
Well, Cooper and Red still seem to have a shared history, and you have to love, we had the ominous Reddington name badge we talked about in the interrogation room. But like I said, for a while this episode, I actually thought Daniel Hutton was Red, but I was wrong. What happened in the rest of the episode is Cooper tries to save Daniel. It doesn't work, but he is saved and ultimately gives his Navy Cross to Hutton on his grave, where he's not alive and he's not even in that grave. Was it the right thing to do? Because I'm telling you, those are hard to come by. I probably would have kept it.
Well, I like the moment because it shows Cooper and what Cooper stands for.
Absolutely.
So in that case, I agree with giving it to him. At the same time, like, the guy was a terrorist and a bad guy. Like, even if it's like you put him there and it was your fault for him, going to the dark side or whatever you want to call it, he still was responsible for a lot of death. So why would you give him the medal?
In his mind, that's a man with a true conscience, by the way.
Right.
In his mind, if he wouldn't have failed him then, none of the other stuff would have happened. It was really on his shoulders that all that happened. Because Daniel Hutton was trying to do the right thing. And he realized doing that is what almost cost him his life and caused him an enormous amount of pain. So really, in Cooper's mind, everything that happened, everything that he chose to do really landed on Cooper's doorstep. And I could understand that logic. And
I think that's why giving him the medal is probably the right thing to do, because it speaks to the whole, like, who you were now is not who you are now.
Right. I just would have carved it in the stone or something and kept the real one. I mean, he's single now. He doesn't have Charlene anymore, right? So, I mean, the babes are going to be impressed when they see a Navy Cross in the house. I'm just saying.
Right, or he holds it up and pins it, takes the selfie.
Oh, man, I just wear it everywhere you go. Every date you go on, I just have the Navy Cross. What's that? Oh, funny story. So this is my Navy Cross, and this means I was awarded by the government. Absolutely.
For following orders that were bad.
Should Cooper have told Panabaker the truth about Red, though? Because here's what I came to wonder while I was watching that. Because he chose to tell him, who Red really is now. Would it have mattered in any way, shape, or form? Because to me, I don't see why it would matter if he is the real Raymond Reddington or not to the task force, because he's still delivering blacklister after blacklister after blacklister. So to me, I don't see a problem with that.
I don't see a reason to turn him in either, because of the fact that he has done good work. And Liz even said it herself, that this is someone that I understand now, and it doesn't matter who he is, because he does good stuff. And
yeah, but I'm not asking that. I'm not saying was Cooper right. We both agree on that. I'm saying, does it really matter either way? Even if he would have told Panabaker the truth about who he thinks he is, Ilya Koslov, would that have mattered? Because he's still really Raymond Reddington in the criminal world. So it doesn't matter. He's still delivering exactly what he said he was going to deliver. I don't really know why that would be that big of a deal breaker. You know what I mean?
So you're saying so he would tell Panabaker, hey, I'm working with this former potential KGB English.
He transformed into Raymond Reddington. He's not actually who he thought he was, but he's still the guy that's been delivering blacklister after blacklister after blacklister.
Right.
So why would you terminate that relationship based on, well, they're not who I originally thought they were? Well, that guy's been dead for 30 years. Okay,
yeah.
Well.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really see what the big deal is.
I wouldn't turn him in. I wouldn't turn him in because I wouldn't want to break the thing that we're doing. I want to keep the task force intact. If you turn him in, you could make the case and argument to keep the task force, but now you've given your control of keeping the task force out of your hands to somebody else.
But see,
so it's a gamble you have to take.
I'm not disputing that Harold. I'm not at all disputing that Harold did the right thing. I'm saying I don't get why it really would matter. That's what I'm saying. Even to Panabaker, I don't get why it would matter. He's still delivering everything he said he would. So who cares? I don't care if you're Joe the Milkman. You keep delivering what you're doing. We're good. We're golden. Crystal.
Yeah, it's just like, it doesn't matter if you work from home as long as the work gets done. I don't care where you work.
Kind of how I see it, man.
Yeah.
All right. So at the end, Cooper gives the flash drive to Panabaker. Really won't do much more, I think, than clear Harold's conscience. And now we know the story of Kuwait. So we alluded to it before, but I got to ask you now, was it worth the wait for you?
I don't think that's the right question. Like whether we got it this year, last year, 2 years ago, or 2 years from now.
Was the story worthy?
The story, the episode itself, in the crux of where we are in season 7, absolutely think that it's the right time and the right place for this story to have taken place. Still wish it just would have been a little bit more from my expectation standpoint.
Well, let me ask you, what more did you want? I mean, what would have if you would have gotten something, not specifics, but like a roundabout, whatever.
Well, I think it would have been cool to have seen actual Raymond Reddington's face, because we only ever saw him in the backseat of a car with Katerina in Requiem.
Maybe there's a reason for that.
Maybe. It would have been cool to know like the cabal was behind paying the money in Kuwait. Like there's just some kind of tie to the cabal. I think that just would have been interesting. But beyond that, and then just how, I think the question is that, okay, so if Cooper and original Raymond Reddington worked together in this capacity, where Raymond Reddington was at the interrogation about Daniel Hutton, but then there was also the time when Harold Cooper was there to pull Reddington out from the Sea-Duke situation. I think I just wanted some kind of bridge between that, like how closely did they work together, or were they really just acquaintances? And this tells me they were really just acquaintances. So Harold couldn't really know Raymond Reddington all that well, which is how he was duped in the first episode of the show. Like, is it really him? I mean, I kind of worked with him, but I don't really know him. But they've always made it seem like they've had a much bigger history. And this kind of makes it seem like they didn't have that big of a history.
That part I will agree with you, because I have said that the thing about Kuwait is a big lander that they had to know each other in some aspect, because they alluded to it, that they worked together in the past, and it turns out really not at all. And by what we saw, so we haven't, maybe there's more that we haven't seen filled in yet, but what we saw, they never even spoke. So Correct. How do you even know Reddington's there? You know what I mean? How do you even know that? I guess you could, maybe it's in the report somewhere, but you had no real official relationship with him that we saw on screen. Maybe there's more to it, but so I will agree that part was a little bit of a disappointment, and it would be nice we keep hearing Ilya Kozlov's name, but we also kept hearing Reddit's name. So you never know. You never know what's going on, man. I don't know what's going on, but I'm enjoying the ride and trying to, I'm really hoping Katerina ends up being Katerina, just so I really want to get that relationship with Liz and have that real family dynamic. I feel like it's pretty solid for me at this point. I haven't seen anything to indicate otherwise. There definitely could be, and I'm missing it, or I'm just not accepting it, whatever. But I would like that dynamic. I think it could be a fun dynamic.
Yeah, the only thing that I'm wanting from this season at this point is Liz to have the whole, I knew it was you the whole time.
That would be great. That would make a lot of fans really happy too.
Yeah.
I really, how we as fans can be when that doesn't happen. And unfortunately, Liz, the character, has been written that way a couple times. So I'm hoping we're all right on that. I'm hoping she's a excellent profiler and she's well aware that this woman is not who she says she is. Because your neighbor just disappears. Now this lady's here. Now you're letting her in your house very quickly.
Your keys mysteriously disappear.
And you should already have extreme trust issues. So, yeah, I'm hoping she knows. All right, let's move on. We've covered the characters. We've got a couple things left, though. But before we get there, we want to take a second to say thank you to those of you that are supporting the show by going to Patreon. That's patreon.com/theblacklistgsm. Patreon.com/theblacklistgsm. As we mentioned last week, all funds raised in the month of October are going to help out John and the people at the World Theater in John's hometown, where the locals gather every week to watch The Blacklist. The theater needs some renovations due to, being an older theater and on its balcony and its HVAC system. They needed $600,000 for the project, but they are just a bit shy of that goal. So we are all hoping that we can make that dream a reality.
Yeah, every single dollar from October, as mentioned, goes to the world, which means we're covering the cost to produce the show this month out of our own pockets. So if you can find a way to skip one drive-through this week or one trip to the vending machine, just throw $2 or $5 into the hat over at Patreon, patreon.com/theblacklistgsm. I know that those frequent World Theater visitors will be greatly appreciated and in debt to all of you. And if you want to know more about the project or even give a tax-deductible donation directly to the theater, you can visit theblacklistexposed.com and click on the World Theater logo either on the side of the page if you're on the desktop, or scroll all the way to the bottom on your mobile to find the logo at the bottom.
Again, that's Patreon, patreon.com/theblacklistgsm. Fill the fedora, help John and the World Theater reach their goal to fix the balcony, get a new HVAC system. All proceeds, once again, go directly to those efforts. And I'll even, John did me a solid. Can I tell people this?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, okay. I think this is really cool.
John did me a favor. For my other podcasts, we do something for our supporters, and where we take a movie that critics didn't like for whatever reason, but we were fans of, and Taking Lives is one of those. They actually picked it. The other host picked it. I didn't pick it. And they mentioned it to me, and I'm like, well, I know John Bokenkamp. I mean, through the show and through the podcast and everything, so I can reach out to him and see if he'd be willing to do an interview, talk to us about it. And absolutely said that he will do it, and we did it, and he was very forthcoming as always. He did a great interview. And because of that, I will be sharing that with Patreon supporters on Blacklist as well a little later. So once you're a supporter, eventually you'll get that too. And I think that's pretty cool, where we're going to talk about Taking Lives. And John really goes into profile. He talks about the profiling aspect of that and how Liz Keane might connect to the character in that movie, which is available on Netflix, by the way.
Oh, because I got something to watch this weekend.
There you go. Boom. Done. Okay. I think that's pretty cool. And it was very nice of him to do that. And I hope everybody that does support the show will enjoy that little bonus.
All right. Well, yeah, keep an eye on your Patreon feed. If you're at that $5 level, then we'll make sure that you get that copy once Aaron releases it, because that's really cool. I'm excited to listen to it myself.
All right. Thanks so much for the support, and we'll be right back with Red's Rhetoric right after this.
There's something really strange about the town called Castle Rock.
And J.J. Abrams and Hulu are bringing some of Stephen King's Castle Rock stories to life. Or to death.
Join us, Jeff Gentry and Wayne Henderson, in the Castle Rock Zone as we share your thoughts about each episode of Hulu's Castle Rock.
Listen and subscribe to the podcast and be part of the fun at castlerockzone.com. Part of the Golden Spiral Media Podcast Network.
Hey guys, this is John Bokenkamp, the creator of The Blacklist. You are listening to The Blacklist Exposed on Golden Spiral Media.
Welcome to Red's Rhetoric, that part of the show where we feature two of Red's scenes from this week, and you get to vote which is your favorite over on the website at theblacklistexposed.com. Just look for the post for Kuwait or the link for the online poll in your show notes on your podcast player. Our first clip this week comes as Red and Oooper fly to Iran.
Well, we're not finished just yet, are we? You must admit, though, it's ironic us jetting over there to protect your secret and you refusing to protect mine.
We're not protecting anything. We're righting what was wrong.
Keep telling yourself that.
How do you even know about Hutton? The real Reddington was there. He was part of an oversight panel and testified about it later. But you're not him. How do you know anything about it if you weren't there?
I know because... I know. Because whoever I once was, I am now and will continue to be Raymond Reddington. Given where we're going, the real question is, who are you? Are you the man in front of me who I know to be good and decent, or are you the man from years ago who got himself into this mess in the first place?
Or Iran, because I've heard it both ways. Our second comes as Red and Oooper fly home.
How do you do it? Wake up each morning, content to live a lie. How do you put on a face for the world?
I don't live a lie. I may once have had another identity, but that identity no longer exists. I am exactly who I am. And I can assure you, I'm a far more interesting Raymond Reddington than Raymond Reddington ever was.
And what about Ilya Kozlov?
I've always believed who you are should define you, not who you were. And I don't know anyone that should be more at peace with who they are than you. Whatever decisions you make going forward, I hope they grant you that peace.
Which was your favorite? If you wish to exploit information, vote #RedSecret. And if you think you are now who you are, vote #RedGood.
All right, now let's move on to Special Agent Intel. Here's a fun fact from Glenn over in the Facebook group. Did you know that a similar concept to Les Fleurs du Mal was done in the 61st episode of The Twilight Zone? A man who needs money for his wife meets up an owner of a club who bets him that he can't talk for a year and has to live inside a glass box apartment in his club like a caged animal for all to see. The episode was titled The Bet, if you want to check it out.
Here's an interesting one from Jeffrey. He posed the thought, what if Red just made up stories like fairy tales about what Katerina was like for Liz, when in truth, Katerina has actually always been this edgy from the beginning?
I mean, I would say she was edgy everything we saw, she was not always a wilting flower. She loved her daughter, but she was also kind of a badass and cold in several respects.
Yeah, because she did kill that guy on the kitchen floor in front of Kaplan.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, she loved Raymond, but, you know, she did what she had to do. She had to be calculating. And we don't know what happened in Belgrade. That could have, you know. There has to be a really amazing reason for her to have left Liz for the rest of her life, though.
Just don't set your expectations for Belgrade to be an amazing episode so you can enjoy it when it comes.
Poor Troy. Poor Troy. You've been really, he's been like
excited.
A kid at
so
Disney
excited.
World. As soon as he heard that episode title, he's like, I know this episode title. Do you want to know what it is? I'm like, sure, man. And he's like, it's kind of a spoiler. Okay. It's Kuwait. And I'm over here going, cool. He's like, no, man, it's like Kuwait. like, yeah, I know where Kuwait is. I was in the military when there was a war going on. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. No, man, this is going to be the biggest episode. Da, 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 da. Okay. Man, you just don't like Blacklist. All right. Theo, one of our new Facebook group members, welcome, Theo. He posed this thought. Is the real reason Red needs Lizzie is protection from Katarina and as part of some bigger plot he has? Last season, Red said that he could never kill Lizzie, and many fans took that was because he loves her and views her as a daughter. But what if it's just that Liz is the biggest bargaining chip he has with Katarina and as part of a larger plan? That's definitely possible. I think there are many fans who feel that way. I've seen too much where he's talking to Dembe and Kaplan, and it all comes across that he loves Liz when Liz is nowhere to be found. And he's talking to his most trusted companions, so I would probably say that wouldn't make sense to me personally. But I know some fans buy that.
Yeah, but you've talked about this theory. I think you even talked about it on the season 6 DVD special Behind the Blacklist, right? That the one theory is that there is no connection to Liz whatsoever.
Correct.
And that she's just a pawn in some giant plan. And
which
so,
I would say would be cool. I'm just saying it definitely would be very cool. It just... I don't, based on what we've seen with him and characters when Liz isn't nowhere to be found and how deeply he took her being killed, during her pregnancy back in the day, that just would be a stretch for me.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's it. But it's possible. Sure.
Well, over on Reddit, user IK Ishatili posed this question. Every time Red confronts with any member of the task force, he takes them to his jet.
Sure does.
Aram confronted with Red after what happened with Samar. Now Cooper is confronting with Red, and he's in Red's jet. Do you ever think that Red is considering the idea of throwing them actually out of the jet at some point?
Aram, he's done that too.
You know? So Aram and maybe Cooper passed the exam. Now only Wrestler is left. I'd be very excited to see Red and Wrestler alone in that jet.
Well, have they been alone in the jet? Because they've had a one-on-one too.
They've had many one-on-ones over the years.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think, there had to be one in a jet at some point, right?
I don't think it's ever been just him and Dembe and Wrestler in the jet.
I'll tell you what, as soon as I heard something open, I would be packing.
That's right. I was a little nervous actually when you heard the airflow come through and Dembe, I guess, came out of the cockpit.
We thought they were going to kill Cooper?
No, but I was like, is there a door open?
Hey, one thing we really didn't touch on, and we should definitely before we finish this out. He 100% really cares about Cooper.
Yeah.
Why? Outside of the task force, because he has shown himself, even with Kaplan, it doesn't matter like who you are, if you cross him, so you're dead to him in a way. Now Cooper was very close to, in a way, crossing him, and he just let him he took his chances, just betting on Harold was a good guy and would do the right thing in his mind. But that's still a big gamble. And throughout the episode, he was genuinely concerned about his welfare. Why? He's not who Harold thought he was. So why does he care so much?
Well, I would say one side of the coin, he cares because he needs to make sure that Cooper doesn't release the information. Otherwise, he has to enact some kind of plan.
That feels like genuine concern, though, like genuine caring.
The second thing that comes to mind is that he appreciates the fact that Cooper has kind of taken over the father figure role for Liz. So it's another person that he has that can keep an eye on Liz so he doesn't have to keep an eye on her all the time.
The second part, I could see. I mean, people say father figure, but I feel like it's more of a mentor.
Sure, whatever.
To me, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be parental. But
okay.
it's another set of eyes,
curious.
So he can go do his work.
I'm just saying he has a emotional connection to Harold. So it's just interesting. All right, finally from Reddit, user Harvey Midnight stated, per Red's comments in the prior episode, the Townsend Directive has been reactivated and certain criminal types have bought into it. So it's been around possibly since Katarina's first suicide attempt. What this leads me to believe is that the Townsend Directive is being maintained and organized. So there's a list of people who have contributed money to a pot. Whoever on that list kills Katarina gets all the money in the pot. It's not just a reward for anyone who kills her, though. It's a finite list of participants. The whole idea of a money reward for killing Katarina suggests those who bought in want to win the prize. That means they want money, which means they might accept a better offer to buy back out. For Red to have millions of dollars at his fingertips, that means he could theoretically pay off some of those killers to not kill Katerina. He's pretending to be Reddington because it's an open secret that Reddington was framed. Reddington, then, is known to be the man with the biggest axe to grind, the biggest reason to hate Katerina, most reason to hunt her and to want her dead. That means anyone looking for Katerina, wanting her dead, would come sit by Red. As a criminal who hates Katerina, Red could ask about the directive, research it, find out who is on the list, and everyone would assume he's just hoping to see her dead and wants to be part of it. What do you think about all that?
That's kind of interesting. So the blacklist would be people that had direct relation to the Townsend directive at the end of the day. And he's slowly taking them out. So he's basically taking out the competition. So finally it's, mano y mano. And then he gets the pot that he had to pay into in the first place. It's really his money.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like the idea.
I mean, the part about pretending to be Reddington because it's an open secret that Reddington was framed does make sense in a way.
It does.
Mm-hmm. Because the biggest axe to grind and everything else.
I got to sit on that one. That's an interesting one.
That's interesting.
Again, because you have like new information, you can think about different theories and possibilities of what happened in the last 30 years. And that's a really great story to tell if that's the case.
Absolutely. Oof.
I dig it.
Well, we are almost... No, this is the last episode of October.
Yes, that's true, because it'll be November 1st when we come back next week.
So we're a good 4 episodes in, man. That's a good month in. You happy? You feel good where we're at? Even though you're monumentally disappointed because you didn't get this.
Because I didn't get what I wanted, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
No, I think that the season's been tracking so far. I think all the steps that they've been taking are logical. We didn't have like the sisters going to do something and then they don't do anything, and then we're in the courtroom seeing them and the sisters aren't doing anything. I think everything has been very logical. So everything that we had issues with in 6 has been rectified so far. So now I agree. I just don't know where it's going. Like, it's like this episode ended and it's like, so what are we doing next week?
That's a good feeling though. I like that. You don't, do you?
Well, not because it's the heavy mythology stuff. So it's like we're writing, and then it's like, oh, we have to throw in this 1 30-second thing at the end of the episode to make it come back next week. Like, I need to go find Ilya Koslov. And it's like, okay, well, in order to find Ilya Koslov, you kind of have to start making some answers. And then we know that they're not going to give us answers because the show's not over yet.
Interesting. I still haven't heard anything about renewal.
No, I don't think we will. If we hear anything, it would be December at the earliest.
You think so?
Yeah. And my guess is you won't hear anything until the weekend of.
The closer we get to like December, the less I think they're not going to be renewed. Because I definitely think they would know ahead of time.
I mean, it feels
if it's going to be a final season, I think they would know that.
Yeah, because it's like everything in here feels like final season.
Does it really? Do you?
Yeah, because it's like Katerina's out. We're giving you the backstory on Kuwait. Dom's been involved. You're talking about Belgrade and other stuff that's happened. So I feel like you're getting, all the pieces put together at this point. It feels kind of final, but at the same time, it also feels like it could open up many more doors.
Could, absolutely. I mean, and they're only I think halfway through the season shooting so far. So there's a lot of story left to tell.
Yeah.
A lot of story left to tell. And we haven't even seen it all yet.
I just want more episodes like Abraham Stern. More fun episodes.
I want more Aram randomly throwing his gun at the glass and it just that's what smashes it. I just love the physics of that. I want more of that because it was still fun. This is a very Michael Bay moment. All right, that's going to conclude this episode. 6 seasons are on Netflix, and now's the time. Go recommend Blacklist to your friend, your enemy, your neighbor, your nanny. And when you do, please also recommend that they subscribe and listen to the Blacklist Exposed podcast. All the case files can be found at theblacklisexposed.com and everywhere great podcasts can be heard.
Yeah, I just want to say big thanks to those that are commenting on the episode from last week in the Facebook group. A lot of new listeners out there, so good to have you. And just thanks for binging all 6 seasons and binging all 6 seasons of the podcast too. That was monumental for that one person. I'm like, whoa, that's a lot of Blacklist.
Good for them though. Good for them. And they love the podcast too. So that's good. Because that would suck if they did all that and then they started listening and like, oh, this show sucks.
That'd be bad. Well, for more great Aaron and Troy hijinks, you can follow us on your favorite social media outlet. I'm at Troy Heinrichs. He's at Aaron Smirks. And together we are at the Blacklist GSM. Plus, literally today, we are actually in a book. Aaron and I are in a book. We have some cool stories to tell about our podcasting journeys.
Oh my God. I thought it was an expose.
No. I hope not, because you wrote it, because that would be a really interesting biography.
I am that dumb. I would totally like, hey, Troy, read this. And then you put it in a book. I'd be like, God damn it. It's not what I meant.
Yes, but the book is called Pod Life, Pod space Life, Pod Life. And you can get the paperback or Kindle version on Amazon.com right now. And you can read Aaron's chapter and my chapter.
Yeah, I actually haven't read your chapter yet, so I'm pretty excited. Do you mention me?
I read your chapter an hour ago before we started recording, so...
You mentioned me?
Good story.
I mentioned you.
I did mention you.
Did you?
I sure did.
Was it nice?
It was. I agreed with you that we both do the Blacklist podcast.
Such a nerd. All right, big thanks for listening. Don't forget. So basically you just said Aaron.
Yep.
Big thanks for listening. Don't forget to answer a profiling question. Is this...
Ilya
Coleslaw?
I'm hungry.
God. Is that dude? Or not that dude? Yes or no? All right, that's going to do it. We're out of here.
See y'all. Take care. Until next time, I'm Agent Troy Heinrichs. That's at Troy Heinrichs on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit, about.me/Troy Heinrichs.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can hear me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast, as well as Remake This Movie Right. We are available at thehollywoodoutsiders.com or on Twitter at 5popcorn. Be sure to subscribe, download the app, submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off of the Blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.
You know Vin Diesel's a dungeon master?
Get out.
Swear to God. Vin Diesel loves D&D. That's Dungeons and Dragons for the kids. Yeah. Yep. Loves it.